What if 1 billion people on Earth aren't even human? In this episode, we're going to be talking about non-human Earth occupants for reals. We're going to be talking about the film Disclosure Day and also disclosure in general, probably we're going to get to, meaning contact, open contact with extraterrestrials, NPCs, non-playable characters. And I think we're also going to get into the human soul versus other kinds of souls, like the souls of ETs, interdimensionals, maybe even talking a little bit more about non-human intelligence and so the different kinds of contact that we have going on our planet. I'm Tricia Carr, and I have the wonderful Carson Dougherty here with us.
Hi.
You ready, Carson?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. I can't wait.
Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. All right, welcome to this episode. We're really excited to be here with you. And I just want to share that we are recording this live we're recording. That sounds funny when you say that, but it's really how it's going. We're recording this.
And people can watch.
And people are watching, yeah, on Substack. So if you hear us referring to an audience, that's who it is. And if you want to join the next one when we do this, you just have to follow me on Substack, and then you'll get the notification. And I have that link in the description, however it is that you are connecting with us. And having said that, welcome. Hi, Carson. What's
Hi,
going
can
on
you
with you?
see Substack audience?
I can.
Okay.
Well, I have it over. Yeah, you can open up
Can
you
I?
can open up like on a browser, and then you can see what's going on with
Oh,
the chat. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
cool.
And I need to next time I need to tag you on Substack, I think, and then you can share it as well. You could
Oh,
restack it right now while we're chatting if you want to, but you can restack it afterward. So we love Substack, don't we? Love Substack, Carson.
we are obsessed with Substack, even if not that
Yeah.
many people have found us yet. We love it. I just like that I can show up and just
It's
give
like,
thoughts.
yeah, and it's like people, it's based on reading. So it's based on like, like,
Intelligence?
I think so, right? Even though sometimes I don't read, I listen to, because you can listen to
Oh, I
an
listen to
article.
it
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time.
Anyway, all right. So having said that, we are going to talk about some really fun things. I actually started by posting an article about this on Substack and AKA through my newsletter. So that's where part of this started, I would say. But what we're talking about is we're talking about things that are, metaphysical and spiritual in nature, but also where that bridges right over into our lived reality right now, because we are talking about open contact with extraterrestrials. And some people who are, I would say a lot of people who are in the metaphysical, mystical, spiritual experience, having that kind of a spiritual development or awakening are really, what do you think, Carson? Like everyone that you talk to who is open metaphysically, they're like, yeah, of course, ETs, you know what I mean? Like, or what? Like, what's been your experience?
Yeah. It's not something I really talk about a ton, but I will call in galactic guides and talk about galactic all the
Yeah.
time. I don't talk about open contact in the
Uh-huh.
same vein, but I
Hmm.
think it is more prevalent. It's
Yeah.
being more discussed, but even in some of these things I've gone to in Asheville, they're like, "Oh, our galactic friends will be there." Like this
Yeah.
kind of energy, it's just kind of thrown around, and I do think that is big within the community.
And think about it like, if we're thinking about ancient shamanic practices, ancient shamanic spiritual practices, indigenous spirituality, these kinds of people really reveal that they have always been in contact. Sometimes they call them the
Mm.
ancient ones. I mean, there's other evidences of it that are supposed, whether it is in, I would say, spiritual communities or in the UAP contact disclosure communities. By the way, I should say this for the sake of listeners. UAP is another way to say UFO. UFO is obviously unidentified flying object. It's not like that's not used anymore, but UAP is like an updated term for it. It means
I didn't even know that.
yeah, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. I think it's because it's a little more open because flying might not be really what some of these things are doing. You know what I mean? Like that it's referring to craft.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think defining as much as you can on this episode would be helpful.
Oh, yeah, please, and please ask because yeah.
I've been in my spiritual practice for how long have I known you? 10 years or whatever,
Mhm,
where I'm like actively studying it. And the first
mhm.
time I heard about alien stuff on that original UBN, do you remember you were on
Of course
that
I was
network?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course I remember.
I was like, no, 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 no. That's crazy talk. I'm like down with angels, but that's it. I was like, this is insane. But I like Tricia's podcast.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah. And then I was like,
That's
"Oh, well, if I'm talking to angels and ascended masters, like, why would I not also be talking to that?" I have
so
this memory that I will never effing forget, and
mhm,
I almost want to apologize to this guy, although he had no idea what I was really thinking. But it was 13 years ago. I just met Chris, and we were out with my soccer team, and this guy was like, "I love Ancient Aliens, the show," and we were like, "Well, that's not real." And he's like, "Oh, they're walking amongst us," and I was like, "The
mhm.
aliens are walking amongst us." He's like, "They're walking amongst us," and I was like, "This guy is nuts." And now I'm like, he was right.
You're like, "We need to have a talk." You're like finding him on Facebook or something.
Yeah, but even like, I mean, I don't think it was until you really introduced me to Bashar, Trisha,
Mhm.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
that I even like understood what open contact mean. I was not
Mhm,
part of the uh, even just now, I'm like, oh, that's what UIP means. I hear it, but I
mhm.
don't know. I was never that like disclosure community, that kind of
Yeah.
spiritual. And so I think if anyone else is like me out there, it's helpful to
Well, and
define
Ancient
the
Aliens
definitions.
had, I don't know if it's still running or not,
I
honestly,
don't know.
but it has or had a real, like the production quality or style of it was very sensationalized, and their
Yes.
main guy that was always on it, I don't know his name, who has the hair, it's like his hair started becoming more and more Teresa Caputo-like, it was like hairsprayed and it kept getting bigger, and he's honestly, as I understand, he's not really that well respected in the true disclosure UAP community. B Again, I'm not this isn't my assessment
Understand.
of this
Mhm.
person, but anyway, but Ancient Aliens, it's like it did cover things that are, truly
I know.
documented and
I was like
everything.
looking at the hieroglyphs and the
Yeah.
Renaissance paintings or whatever, and and I was
Mhm.
like, oh,
But it
but
had
it's
this
not.
tone that was like,
Yeah,
UAPs, you know what I
it's
mean? Like
not produced in a way that makes you want to believe it. It's very feels like fiction, but
yeah.
like you can suss out the stuff that you're like, I will. This is a real painting I'm looking at,
Mhm.
so this would makes sense. And then the more I read like raw material and all of the
Mhm.
other channeled things and
Mhm.
listened to the way that the planet was seeded, and
Yeah.
it's like it was like a gradual unfolding for
Mhm.
me. And now it sometimes it I feel crazy that like I'm like, oh yeah, open contact.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if any of my friends would watch this, they'd be like, I didn't
What are you
know that
talking about?
about you.
Well, but here's the thing, and so there's a person that is someone Carson and I'm not gonna say who it is, people who know will know, and I'm not really saying anything bad, this is literally what someone said. I was, it's someone that is a part of an education that we both went through, and so I was at that place, and I was talking to 2 other colleagues, and we were talking about, we were talking about disclosure, open contact, and all of that kind of stuff, and, this person walked by and goes, "Oh, come on," and was like, in a friendly way, like in a po not he wasn't, like, being mean, he was being, like, jest, but also this is really he's like, "Come on, if there are aliens who could come here, the millions of years that we've been here, why would they choose right now?" And we're like, "They didn't choose right now. They literally have been here the whole time." And he's like, "Okay, so then, like, why isn't it more like, where is the documentation?" I'm like and this was I was like, "Literally, Lou Elizondo is going in front of Congress tomorrow. That's why we were talking about it." He's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes, their disclosure is happening for the 3rd time in front of Congress tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I don't really know about that." And he
Yeah,
left.
no one's knowing about that. The only way I know about it
Yeah.
is through you talking about it, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were there because if that conversation had happened to me, I'd be like, "You're right. I don't know.
I
I
need to
don't know what I'm
stop
talking about.
I
I
need
don't."
to stop thinking it because this person has authority.
And I'm like, "I have not done the research, and I cannot
Yeah.
convince you otherwise." But
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even have to do that much research. I was like, literally, it's going in front of Congress tomorrow, so who's interested is Congress, you know?
yeah, but that's
So,
also you're
yeah.
such you're 5 5'1"
Oh,
energy
that's
right
true.
there.
And so is the other person, by the way. The other person who was like challenging us is
Of
also
course.
5'1". And we're
Of
talking about
course.
human design in case anyone's like, what are they talking about now? We'll try to keep up. We'll try to help everyone keep up if but maybe it's going to be the prompt to go down a rabbit hole like Carson watching the UBN show 8 years ago. What? Anyway, so so that's what we're talking about. And there is the precipice of this episode is also the film by Steven Spielberg called Disclosure Day, which premiered on June 12th of this year. This is 2026. And it also, the precipice of it is my husband is like, he's an expert in all of the things.
When did he become an expert? Because I feel like last time we talked about him 5 years ago, this spiritual awakening of his was the aliens first? Were the aliens
He's
first?
always been interested in it in
Okay,
whatever
I had
degree
no
that you
idea.
are. In whatever
Okay.
degree that you are, he's always been interested in it, I would say. And I don't know, it's been gradual, I guess. And it's also been concurrent with, him understanding what I do or just being, listening to what I do and everything. And it's like I just said that to him on the way out of the house today because I was like we're just getting weirder and weirder. I don't know who leads the weird. I was like, I think we switched positions. Like you're leading a little bit in this weird and I'm like I got to catch up, so I got to get a few paces ahead. 22 years we've been together, so we had no idea
That's crazy.
how weird it was going to get.
I just got so distracted because you're wearing, I think, a color within your color palette, and it
Yes.
looks good.
Thank you.
We won't make this podcast about getting your seasons checked.
But Carson helped me with that. Yeah. Yes, this is one of my colors. It's true. This is in my season. And I actually did buy this before I had identified what my season is. But also, I like this and I love the color. But also, when I wore it on camera, I was like, wait, does this look like Scrubs? It's not. It's a nice linen top. But to me,
you can tell it's linen. It does have the shape of Scrubs, but
it doesn't have a little pocket for my stethoscope. So I think that's what saves it. For whatever reason, when I look in the mirror, it doesn't look like that, but on the camera, it looks like.
Yeah. I didn't.
And then I was like, but that's fine. I just might look a little more official for something that I'm absolutely not official.
It's like a spa Scrubs because it's very fancy linen.
Okay, good.
Not a doctor Scrubs.
I'm also not qualified to be a spa scrub wearer, but whatever, Thank you for noticing. So, okay, so we're talking about Disclosure Day, and yes, my husband is like, yeah, he's seriously an expert in this. And I mean, just because in the sense that there are people who are way more, if I say that, he's always like, you can always compare yourself to someone else. Like the podcaster, Jesse Michels, who is so brilliant. His name of his podcast is American Alchemy. I've only been watching the last few, I've only watched a few episodes so far. And I'm mentioning this because that's also another prompting of this is one particular episode, which I will talk about. And and it brought up some questions between myself and my husband, Brian, based on Disclosure Day. That's what this episode is. So Jesse Michels is a podcaster, as I said, but his knowledge and his recall, and I don't know how many books and papers and everything he's
what's
written.
the genre? Is it they're all about aliens or?
I think so. I mean, all the ones that, well, no, I don't know.
Let's look up.
Okay, so the
American
one that
Alchemy.
I'm watching right now, it is also the person who is on it was, I happen to mention to you, was in the GATE program, GATE, when he was a
Yes.
kid. And the GATE program, so I learned about the GATE program when I moved from Texas to California. They didn't have it where I lived in Texas, but I just heard about it when I was in 8th grade or 9th grade from people who younger than that, because I think 14 is like the cutoff, had been in the GATE program, and it just sounded like an honors program, basically. But it actually, I learned subsequent to that, Brian told me, no, they systematically used it to find young people who were prepubescent, to see if they could develop them in psionic abilities.
And who's they?
That's the thing. We think it's the government.
Okay.
But it's so the theys that are involved in the one guy, his name is Jordan. I can't remember his last name right now. You can find him on Jesse's podcast from like 2 weeks ago. The they that he knows about, there are some shell organizations that are, that he names. And then the they that he dealt with are, and thank you for asking, because I hate when someone says they and they,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? No, but it can be traced. But there are therapists and everything that were involved. And it does seem like it's probably a CIA or something like that, initial, kinds of agencies,
Okay, because I was in the gifted and talented program,
Oh,
but I don't it wasn't called GATE. It was called
oh,
gifted and talented. But
gifted
if
and talented education.
I mean,
Oh, so that's it. Yeah.
I'll have to ask my parents whether they also refer to it as GATE. I
Well,
remember it being a big thing. Also, my dad's involvement,
I know.
in the government. So you think they would
Uh-huh.
have plopped me right up, but they did not,
Well,
that
see,
I
that's
know
what
of.
I told my husband, I told Brian, I was like, I asked Carson if she was in GATE. And he's like, oh, no, there's no way they would have her in GATE because
Oh.
of her dad. Can we say what your
Oh.
dad was a part
Yeah,
of?
I
Okay.
think.
Well, you say it then. Or don't.
Yeah, he was in the CIA.
Okay. So Carson, and he's like, no, no, no. Are you like, I'm in trouble now?
Yeah, I'm sweating.
You're
He
sweating.
retired over cover, but he does not talk about it, so
Are you okay?
yeah.
I can't wait to tell Brian that, because you know what? We were sidebar, but there was this gigantic cockroach who was living in our under sink cabinet that
Ugh.
we couldn't catch. Exactly. He was so huge. I'd never seen anything like him.
Alien.
He looked like an alien. He was so big. And so we were bouncing him. We finally, we were able to put him in a box and take him outside. And he crawled over my neighbor's wall. It's like,
Oh
should
my
we
god.
warn her?
Oh god.
Anyway, but when I would see him, I was like, oh my God, I'm sweating. Ryan kept cracking up because I was sweating. He's like, why? Why? I was like, because I think they feel like they have so much power because they're small and they're wily and they can
Mm,
crawl across my face while I'm sleeping and they could lay
mhm,
eggs in my ear. And he's like, none
mhm.
of those things, but I get it. Okay. And they get to exist. I just hope they exist out there,
My mom tells a story. She was living in outside of Charleston or in South Carolina, and they had this big old house filled with cockroaches, like
Mm.
big, big ones, because it's the South. And she's like, if you'd wake up in the middle of the night, you would stomp your feet to
Ooh.
scare them
Yeah, yeah.
away.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's awful.
Yeah. So anyway, your sweating response.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have to say it.
I know. But then, I mean, I tell people in person that are close to me.
Okay.
I've just never said it public. It's not like he's going to watch this. So,
You're like, he's
you
not that big of a fan.
I don't know.
Anyway.
He's still weird about it, but when you've lied about it for
Yeah.
your whole life, and then
Hmm.
you watch your father still be super weird about it because
Hmm.
he lied about it for even longer,
Hmm.
it feels like, "Oh my god, am I allowed to do this? Can I? I don't know."
But you've been able to say it to people in person.
Yeah, he retired over cover, not undercover.
Yeah, exactly. Got it.
So it's fine,
Should
I
be
guess.
fine.
That's weird. It's ancient
You're
old
sweating
stuff.
again. And I'm sweating again, she says. All right. So Brian said, well, there's no way they would have, inducted Carson into GATE because they would have, because of her dad. And
Mm,
I was like, I said, but I thought there was just a component of it that was just honors. And he's like, yeah, but they used it to call people out, children into higher, echelon. And I was like, oh, okay. So if they weren't taken forward, they would just be cycled out. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, so maybe they found out after she was in there and they just casually cycled her out instead of moving you up.
hmm.
So you have to watch that episode where with this person. I'll send it to you.
I do need to listen, and especially
Hmm.
because, like, the area I was in, it's right by
Hmm.
headquarters,
Yep.
that I grew up in Alexandria, and, God, now I have so many questions because I remember
Well, we'll
my
do an
mom saying
episode
she
on
was,
it.
like, fighting to get me in. She's like, "I didn't get it, like, why you didn't get in the first time." So she's like, "I went and got you tested, and then you had, like, a genius
Yeah,
IQ or something."
exactly. Yeah.
And so she was like, "Here, look at this." I don't know.
Well, so exactly, that's the thing, is that they acted like it was just for really, genius kids, and that's why I was, because I said to Brian, I was like, "Ask Carson if she was in GATE," and he goes, "Oh, she's such a GATE kid," meaning like you're you're so one of the kids who would have tested into GATE, but it was also for other things. Basically, it's for suggestibility, You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's what they were testing. That's what they were seeing what they were doing proper, just regular like literature and art and all that kind of stuff too. But they were finding out if they had the appropriate suggestibility to be able to, enhance their psychic abilities
It's crazy.
and use them for eventual
Like,
weaponization to be
were
able
they
to, yeah.
looking for somnambulestic people
Well, they
or
wouldn't have
not that kind
used
of
that word.
suggestibility?
Well, they wouldn't have used that word. It's what you and I know. More precise even, I would say. Just people who could remote view. They could be trained or and had the natural predisposition for remote viewing, for other kinds of, psychic abilities
Crazy.
that
Oh
they
my
could
god.
utilize.
Weird.
Yeah. So yeah, and so I like I told Brian, I was like, but I just knew kids who had just been in it, and he's like, yeah, well, they just weren't taken forward, so they did just get the experience of just being in the honors program they called GATE, or gifted and talented. Yeah,
Yeah,
gifted
which
and
was me.
talented education is the initialism of that GATE is from. So actually, I guess acronym. Anyway, so okay, now we're talking about disclosure. This is how the episodes are going to go with us.
You're like, "It might be over an hour."
No. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. All right. But we're going to cover a lot of fun things. Okay. So, all right. So, Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg has said that this is the least fictional science fiction film he has ever done. And in fact, by the way, I like Close Encounters of the Third Kind was based on a true story. E.T. was also based on a true story. Did you know this? It's really
No.
it's based
What?
on,
Oh,
yeah,
chills.
I know. It's based on some family who found and harbored an extraterrestrial in their barn for a certain amount of time.
What?
Yes. I mean, not the part about the bicycles flying in the air and like all that, but
But
just
like,
the basic story. Mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we know more? Like, were they able to communicate? Did
I don't
was
know.
because
I
you
don't
would think
know.
they wouldn't be stuck here because 'cause don't they have the ability to, like, teleport without a ship?
Not
No?
necessarily. There are many, and that's something we're going to talk about. There are many different kinds of non-human
Extraterrestrial.
intelligences that may have different kinds of abilities. It seems like if it was a gray, which ET most I think ET maybe is a gray, is
Mhm.
maybe is what he would be based on because he's
Mhm.
short. Well,
Looks
there are
like it.
tall grays and short grays, but looks like he's probably a short gray, even though they made him brown and but the shape of his head and his eyes and everything. They
'Cause they,
say
like, made him into, like, a kid. It felt like a kid versus an intelligence that has more
yeah,
capabilities than
right. And I mean, maybe that was movie magic,
it definitely was. It was a kids show.
right?
Uh, okay, so you're saying Disclosure Day was also based on it's
Disclosure Day is based on yeah, it is based on a true whistleblower. That's what it's based around. And also the files that are, what are wanted to be disclosed without me giving it away. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Yeah. And even and there's a part where there is disclosure. I mean, it's called Disclosure Day. It's kind of like when people got mad about learning the ending to the breakup, and it's like, well, it's called the breakup, so
yeah.
there is disclosure
Yes.
in the film, and it is I guess I would say theorized by people in UAP. They're like, I'll bet you one of the things that they disclosed isn't remade. It's probably he probably there's actually probably an Easter egg in there that's actual true film footage.
Oh my
Okay, so
god.
here's the thing. When you're gonna want to watch, it's like 3 hours and 45
We're
minutes
going on
episode.
Friday. Oh my wait. Oh, no.
But
Not the
no.
movie.
The movie is 2.5 hours.
That's still long.
It is, but it flew by for me.
Okay.
It was not too long. The credits were a lot longer for me, even though they were 30 minutes. I was like, I don't care. You don't sell me something that's happening in March.
Yeah.
I'm gonna forget. I'm not a Virgo. Anyway, I'm not planning my film watching
And
6
I'm
months out.
like, "Oh, I must remember this one."
You put it on your calendar. Anyway, so no, there's an episode of American Alchemy with Bruce Zabel and Brent Friedman, and this is also the reason I'm mentioning this is because that's also the precipice for mine and Brian's conversation. And they're talking a little bit about Disclosure Day. And they also talk about how so they're Hollywood filmmakers, TV and filmmakers, these two, Bruce and Brent and Bryce. And in the 90s, they were approached by a naval intelligence officer that says, you know, they were making a TV show called Dark Skies, and they're like, you got, and a naval intelligence like covertly contacted them and said, you got a lot of things right, but we want to help you to get more things right, and basically
What?
make a
Wait,
deal
what is
with
it?
us.
What intelligence? What is this?
Naval,
Oh, naval.
naval intelligence, yeah.
What?
And so basically that deal, and they turned it down because they were just thinking like business wise. They're like, no, then people are going to be in charge of our scripts. We're not gonna be able to tell our stories.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, they basically say, of course, Stephen has made that deal. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
that's what I wanted. That's was my question.
hmm
Because you hear from Bashar and other channelings that
hmm
a lot of, and we know this about artists, about writers, that
hmm
they're channeling through information.
yeah,
Often they're not even consciously working with
hmm
the galactic whatever to say, okay, we're preparing humanity for
yeah,
this throughout stories, through
hmm
storytelling. And so they might not even realize that they're doing this channeling.
yeah.
So I was going to ask, like, was Stephen channeling? Was he actually talking to someone and knows exactly what he's doing? Did he do a ton of research? Is it all and yes and?
I think it's yes and less maybe for Stephen particularly. It might
Mhm.
be less on the channeling, except that he is an artist. And
Uh-huh.
yes, I believe that true art comes by channeling. And interestingly, in this same episode that I'm talking about with Bruce, why do I keep saying Bruce? Bryce and Brent. I
Mm.
think Brent Friedman actually says he says it this way. He's like, I think that artists remote view. Like they're finding something in the quantum field and they're remote viewing it. And then it's the same thing. It's a very same concept as channeling, remote viewing in the maybe the remote viewing to where there are non-human intelligences that would help. But we're talking about literally human beings in the government there. So different parts of to say the government is so ridiculous. That's like saying, you know, your family, and your family is generations and generations who don't even know each other, right? If you
Yeah,
can
either my
really
dad's
consider.
lying to me or he doesn't believe in this or have any idea what's going on.
That's
It
the thing. A lot of them don't know, which is why whistleblowers go before Congress. Congress is like, what's happening now?
yeah.
Because the whistleblowers are disclosing what is happening in some black ops, some deep programs that are basically, you know, illegal inside. You know, they're not supposed to be doing that, and that's why they're actually whistleblowing because they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing or not approved of doing, and um, not disclosing things that should be disclosed. So there are parts of the government, like the naval intelligence, seems to be more involved and interested in disclosure, which is why they would approach Bryce and Brent and Steven Spielberg and want to actually feed them information because it's drip disclosure. I would say, human beings who are involved in understanding that there is contact, true contact. They want there to be open contact and they want it to gradually come out. Then there are other parts of, you know, different factions, I guess you would say, who want to actually retain it. They don't want it to come out. They don't think that the people can handle it. They think it will
Mm.
destroy, you know, our paradigm, and it will just cause a lot of chaos. As actually Disclosure Day kind of works that. Like it needs to be disclosed because they deserve to know it versus they can't handle the truth.
So is it like kind of Men in Black in except without the crazy, like full on this is
Men in Black is
customs
also
for.
based Men in Black also is based on, you
So
know,
it's just like
true events.
you don't know it exists, you get inducted into this thing where
Mhm.
they know that's been going on and it's been existing for years and years and years.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, Roswell's real. Roswell was like, what, 1947 or something like that, you
Oh
know?
my goodness. I meant to say at the beginning of this episode that this was gonna be crazy for me because this is not my area of expertise, and I'm gonna be like this audience member who's just, like,
Perfect.
asking questions and asking it out loud,
Yeah,
but
good.
live.
And I'm not an expert really either, so we're, like, right at the same level, like, you know nothing and
Mm,
I know one thing.
no, you know, like, 10 things. I know
Okay,
half of a thing.
okay, alright. I'll let you do that math. So so anyway, alright, so, Spielberg, that's why Spielberg is saying, and he also says, like, "This is the crowning work of my whole career," you know, that's what he's talking about there. And also on the side of there's also, so far as the non-human intelligences, the ETs, it seems like some of the different, whether you want to call them entities or species or, whatever. Species would probably be appropriate. Some of them seem to be a bit more in favor of disclosure, and some of them are a little bit more want it to stay covert. Some are a bit benign or in between, or like, yeah. And so it's kind of both the humans as well as the, NHIs. But the fact,
NHIs are
non-human intelligence, yeah, it's another way to say ETs.
okay.
The reason we say NHIs is because it's not sure that they're all extraterrestrial. They could be ultra-terrestrial.
What does that mean?
I just read a paper on it before I came in.
Like, what are all these words?
I read a paper by Hal Puthoff, who is a physicist and very much involved in the UAP, community. An ultra-terrestrial categorizes it
Like
could
Yeti?
be. You know what? He doesn't mention that, but I think it could be because one
they
of the
live
things
here, but they're not human.
Yes, exactly. And I can tell you, okay, I have to even look up to tell you that they live here, but they're not human. So, like, I'll give you a few of the examples of what it is. Okay. All right. From this
Dolphins.
ultra-terrestrial models, there's an unidentified phenomenon interacting with the current human population on Earth. It's currently unknown whether the phenomenon is exclusively extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, crypto-terrestrial, to your point, demonic/gene. Gene is DGIN, INN. It's like basically means like kind of demons, and it's
Like in K-pop, I think they use
yes,
something.
yes, exactly. It's a word for demon or brownie or
Demon hunters.
Yeah,
K-pop
exactly.
demon hunters is what I mean, not just
I
the
know.
genre of music.
Yeah. Demonic or gene, which it doesn't, and by the way, those words don't necessarily mean all bad, either one in the way that they're being used, but whatever. So there's then the next part of this list is proto/ancient human, time travelers, etc., or some combination or mutation of any or all of these. So you see why the word NHI is kind of used more collectively,
Yeah.
because we don't know if they're actually extraterrestrial. They could be ancient ultra-terrestrial, meaning they have actually been living here since Atlantis, and they have been sequestered, and they're retaining, the things that they retain in their technology.
So you're like, to your point, I was like, what point? Because I didn't understand any of those words.
No, I know. I don't totally understand them either. I was just like,
are we talking, like the Bigfoot, the Yetis, are we talking dolphins or no? Because we know what dolphins are. They have a name. They're
right,
dolphins. Are we talking
right.
about the people that live in Mount
Shasta,
and Telos?
possibly. Telos, right, exactly. Possibly. Those
that-
would all, that's not listed in Hal's paper specifically,
But that's what that would mean.
but that definitely crypto-terrestrial, that would include Bigfoot, Yeti. I like Sasquatch is my favorite word for that. Crypto-terrestrial would definitely be something that Sasquatch would fall into.
Okay.
Extra-dimensional, that would be the like the city of Telos above Mount Shasta.
Okay.
There's also one of these are considered to be subterranean, and they possibly are the Atlanteans. So yeah, it's very interesting. So that's why the word NHI is used. But it's okay if I might say ETs sometimes. I think it's I think all of these things are.
And
That's
they're
what
not
I
going to
feel
all
about it.
come out at once. We get piecemealed. Isn't that what Bashar was saying? That we're going to get people, the most human, like the hybrids first. But then you would
Hybrids
think
first.
they could come out of the ground if they're Atlantean. That feels like they would understand.
Well,
us.
and then I also heard, so for example, there's also, in speaking of the different categories, have you ever heard of the Nordics or the tall whites? And so some people think the Nordics and the tall whites are maybe different, but they have very similar descriptions. They aren't truly like Nordic. They look like Nordic human beings.
So I feel like I talked to one of these once, but is this different than what you're going to talk about today with the NHPs, where you said
NPCs?
NPCs?
You're like, I don't know. OMG, whatever they are.
National Health Program. Anyway.
NFL, the NFL is a part of this too. What about the MLB?
I mean, with my knowledge of sports, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. And CPs?
PCs,
NPCs.
non-playable characters. Oh,
Okay.
I'm gonna say hi to Tiffany, Lori, and Helena. Hi. They're
Hi.
on the live. I forgot to check over there.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead. Non-playable characters.
okay,
That's what we're
so I
talking
feel
about
like I
here.
had an interaction with
A Nordic, maybe,
a
or a tall white.
Nordic
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Tell me
was
about it.
it was I messaged you afterwards. I was like, "This will stay with me forever." He, like, came up in a parking lot. I was trying to get the girls out, and he was, like, like, dancing. So tall, had, like, a strange accent, like, very Nordic looking. I was like,
Like
"You're"
blonde and really fair skinned.
Yes.
Oh, you so did.
So tall, and he just, like, looked in the way he looked at me, and I was like, "What's happening?" And he was just like, "Do you know how blessed you are? Do you know that they are angels and you are like, it was just, like, the weirdest thing, but he was also, like, dancing and so happy, and just told me how special, like, what I ha the girls and, like, I can't remember now, but I was like, "Oh my god, that was the
Oh my God.
craziest experience."
Were you looking at him the whole time that he was speaking to you?
I don't know.
Maybe not, because you were wrangling the kids.
I was
Because
wrangling the kids.
he may have telepathically said that. Like his mouth may not have moved.
I don't know. But it was such a thing where I was like, "This is an otherworldly experience. This is different, and this is gonna stay with me forever." I sent you a voice message afterwards. This is when we were fleeing the fires.
I kind of remember it, but I didn't lock on to him being tall and Nordic looking.
Oh, so
I'll
even
bet
before
you
he
that's what
talked,
it
I was
is.
like, "This guy's"
That sounds so much like people's reports of coming in contact with Nordics.
okay, so they're not NCPs.
NPCs. No, they're ETs. They're true ETs. They are aliens.
So and they're
But they're
allowed
living here.
to and they just make contact with us sometimes.
They just live here. And there's a few places where it's like people just know they live there.
Hanging
And
out with humans?
mhm. No,
No.
they tend to be a little more reclusive, but they will sometimes come out and just like interact with people. And they tend to be really like mystical. People report these mystical
So
experiences.
mystical. It was
Yeah.
so mystical. I was like,
And
"What
so
is happening?"
they're one of the ones that seem to be a little bit almost benign. Like they're reclusive, in a sense. Like they're also not like super duper in hiding. So
Mm,
they're kind of like, oh, and let's talk to this beautiful being, you know what I mean? Or you
mhm,
kind of happen upon them and it's like, but did you happen upon them or they were just in mind that you, and then they have an interaction with them. So yeah, that's kind of like anomalous interactions. They're really tall, they look really fair, and they're blonde. They look Nordic, which is why they're
mhm,
called Nordic, because they look very, they look like they could be, and they pass for humans,
mhm.
but they stand out at the same time. Like you
Yeah,
don't go, that's definitely an ET.
yeah,
You're like, that's a groovy person. I don't know what's going on there, but it's something different.
yeah. Oh, yes
Yeah.
to everything you just said with my
Mhm.
experience.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, next time if you see one of them, you're like, "Are you a Nordic? ET?" And they'll be like, "Are you an NFL?" All right. Okay, so now to the now we're gonna get to the subject, but I think we're gonna have to have more than one part. Well, anyway, we're gonna definitely talk about Disclosure Day after you see it. So I'm so excited for you to
Yep,
see it. I'm
going
gonna
on
have to see it
Friday.
a second time. So cool. So okay, so Brian came to me and he's like, okay, I was listening to this podcast episode with, Jesse Michels, which is American Alchemy is the name of his podcast, with Brent Zabel and Bryce Zabel, Brent Friedman. It's hard to get their names straight. They both start with BRs. And he said they were talking about in how Disclosure Day, a film like this probably has Easter eggs in it for the UAP community,
Mm,
especially because this is probably wanting to light a little bit of a groundswell for there to be some kind of drip disclosure. Like it's actually getting us to rehearse the narrative. Even people that think that it's just fantasy, they're still rehearsing the narrative. You know what I mean? Cognitively, neurologically. You know.
mhm,
So anyway, they were saying like, yeah, the first one of the first trailers or the first trailer that came out for Disclosure Day, Josh O'Connor is the lead actor, and he says people deserve to know the truth. And he's looking at his girlfriend. You see, and by the way,
Emily Blunt?
no, his
No.
girlfriend is actually Eve Hewson, Emily Blunt is his counterpart, co-lead, but yeah, but they're not romantic partners. So he's saying he says people deserve to know the truth. Camera right on them. It belongs to 7 billion people. And that's in the trailer, and it's actually have a link to it's still published. And the thing is, there are over 8 billion people on the planet.
We're missing a
There's
billion.
no way that was huh?
We're missing a billion in that
We're
number.
missing a billion. Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. So, in case anyone's going like, "So they just made a mistake." No, absolutely not. There's no way, especially a trailer, because a trailer is like it goes through hundreds of hands and it is fact checked to pieces, as well as the film, especially Spielberg. There's no want of budget, or
Mhm.
time, even though it's still a film. Yeah, there is, but you know what I mean.
Right.
1000% it was not a mistake. Now, it was released that way. So this is the supposition is this an Easter egg? What is this indicating? And by the way, when I watched the film, Brian, I was like, is it in the film? And Brian's like, I don't remember. He's like, I don't think so, because I would have noticed, because I know there's 8 billion people on the planet. It's not something that, and by the way, it's not, the people are like, well, maybe they meant because it was gonna be in the past. No, it would have had to have been an early, like 2017 was the last time the population of the planet was even 7.5 billion, so that you could have rounded down. So it was probably more like, it would have had to have been over 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, that decision was made long before they started filming when it was gonna happen, right?
Mhm.
So, but the thing is, it was intentionally put out in the trailer. And when I watched the film, it's on Josh, and he goes, "People deserve to know the truth. It belongs to Pan to Eve. 8 billion people." So they corrected it in ADR because they didn't even reshoot it.
Oh, it's not his mouth moving.
Right. They pan to Eve. Or they pan away from him. It belongs to, and then it says 8
ADR
billion
for people
people.
who aren't
Oh,
in
yeah.
film stuff is when you record voice stuff afterwards
Yeah.
to make it real plain.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, my building is an ADR
yeah.
building, the building where my studio is. Um, yeah, it's actually when they punch in audio after the film has already been shot. So, anyway, so then in the podcast, so Brian brings to me, he's like, they were bringing this up, and they're like, okay, their theories, they're like, is Steven trying to Easter egg a little bit that there is the first thought is, the darkest one. There'll be a purging of the population somehow before or around disclosure. Well, before, I guess, because at the time that Josh is saying this, it's before there has been disclosure. That's nobody likes that idea. That's a
Well,
dark thought.
I have a
Hmm.
question,
Yeah.
and not dark version of that.
Yeah.
When they talk about and Bashar talks about this, the ascension that's going on, and there being not even a death of some people choosing to leave the planet because they don't want to be here for this, their soul's not on board, whatever, like they're just not ready
Hmm.
or they're just don't need to be.
Hmm.
So you have people that were leaving beforehand. He also has talked about just a splitting of realities where they're both
Yeah.
existing,
Yeah.
but it's different vibrational frequencies. So people that kind of leave your life might be on that other
Hmm.
vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
So is that a less dark version of that, maybe 1 billion people being in the other reality?
It could be. That could be another part. That's a theory that that Brian and I didn't talk about, that they didn't talk about in
That's
the
what I'm here for.
American. You're here for an extra theory, an additional, not extra, augmentation of theory, possibly. And then that would require, yeah, it's something that seems to be evident in the process of disclosure. Now, here's something that kind of, okay. So then the next theory is, and this is in the American Alchemy podcast, is hybrids. That there are actually approximately 1 billion people on the planet
Hmm.
who are actually just human ET hybrids. They're walking the planet, and they're excluded from the people who deserve to know, because they know. Because
Do they know that they're hybrids?
yes, so
Okay.
let's define that again. Um, the whole human race is a hybrid. It's a seeded planet. We're not. We were hybridized in order to be this. But when we're talking about these kinds of hybrids, it means like a meat, like you and then like a gray.
I
You know
get
what I
my
mean? Like at
eggs.
this, yeah, your ovum and a a male gray, that kind of a hybrid. You know what I
So
mean?
from like the hybridization program that Bashar talks about.
Exactly. Yes. The hybridization program, meaning that there was, I mean, I guess it could still be running, but there was like there was this period, especially in the 90s and 2000s, where it seemed that people were being abducted, and for their genetic material to be able to create hybrid, like this form of human plus another full form of
But
another
in soul
species.
agreement, maybe not in human consciousness agreement, but
Right.
that their souls would agree to this.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're hoping, right? That's
Hoping.
that's how we spiritually
Fingers
bypass. That's how we make it make sense. I agreed to it. We'll see.
So those babies walking around the planet knowing that they're
and they know
not human.
and they know that they're not human. They know that they're hybrids.
That they're interacting, the living as humans.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. But it's not like, oh, maybe Sterling is a hybrid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that these hybrids were actually.
She was a C-section. I was out. So
who knows what they slipped in there?
I mean, she looks exactly like Chris. So
yeah, exactly. So then she wouldn't be from you. Yeah, no, it's like the idea, the concept of hybrids is that they were, they were born and raised outside of the Earth, and then they came back. That's the concept of the hybrids. So there are approximately 1 billion hybrids walking the planet. They know they're hybrids. That's why it's 7 billion people deserve to know, like what this film is trying to communicate covertly to us. That's the second theory. Or the third, because Carson says maybe it's a split timeline and 1 billion people are going to go somewhere else. But now we get to, well, I don't know if this is probably an obvious one. I didn't hear it in their podcast, so I think this is kind of like one that I came up with. And it was just basically there are 1 billion people who are in such resistance to it that their current worldview they constitutionally cannot accept it. You know what I mean? Like to them, like you were when you heard of that guy talk about ancient aliens, and you're like, whatever. Like they're still there. They're like, no, that's just like zombies. You know what I mean? Like that's just fairy tale stuff. That's like the X-Men. It's not real,
Yeah. And we've seen very clearly how people can be living in totally different realities.
Exactly. And possibly
based
also
on their beliefs.
Yeah, they have a religious, excuse for that, which really doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, by the way, when I was in Christian religion, when I was in my 20s still, I remember reading this one Bible verse and going, oh, that's ETs. And it was like a download. And it's the verse where Jesus says, I have other sheep who are not of this pen. And I was like, oh my God, he's talking about ETs. There are other planets. And I never really looked into it or thought about it. I mean, it was the 90s.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was on social media. Yeah. Anyway, but there are people just like, there are two ways that people can be in such strong resistance that they tie to their paradigm, which could also include religion. Galileo was almost executed because he showed the world, because he just had telescopic lenses for the first time, that the Earth revolves around the sun. Because it used to be, the belief was it was a geocentric solar system, meaning the sun revolved around the Earth. And of course, that's what it looks like to us. But they had attached religion to that. Like that was against God. Yeah. And, not only that, but I love this. You know that when the electric light bulb, when the light bulb came out, the electric light came out, people were resistant to it because they thought demons could come in through it. And so they were resisted getting light bulbs in their house.
But that tracks for humans.
Right? Tracks.
I believe it.
Yeah. My Mama, if you're listening, bless you. This is how you used to think. My mom in the 90s, they started to do direct deposit of paychecks, and she was resistant to it because she thought it was the sign of the beast. Anyway, so, and also like, look at the film from, what was it, 2 years ago, 2024, I think, called Don't Look Up. It was an Adam McKay film. And Don't Look Up was about like an asteroid coming to destroy the planet. And they were like, no, it doesn't exist. All you have to do is not look up.
Chris just watched that the other night. I came in, I was like, what are you watching? And he loves to tell me the entire synopsis of whatever he's watching.
You're like one line. You're like, like with Claude, you're like, tell me succinctly. Anyway, yeah, Brian does that too. So, okay, so resistance that is so strong that they simply they cannot receive it. Maybe that departs them on another timeline, to your point. Maybe it
Mm,
actually causes them to exit because they can't tolerate it and they
mhm,
meet their demise. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
maybe that's kind of a part of it. Okay. So then this is the part, this was my theory that I discussed with Brian. And this has to do with the fact, an interesting point, about a month prior to us having this conversation, for whatever reason, I started to consider NPCs. So NPCs, that stands for non-playable characters. It's something that's taken from video games. And it's basically back extras, extras. Like in film, there are people that are hired to sit in the stands. Well, not anymore, they use AI for it. But, people that just walk by and they're not actually a part of the scene. They never get put into the scene. Now, here's the other thing. Dolores Cannon had this concept in her work, has this concept in her work too, which I read to you going like, oh, ancient aliens, that's dumb. Like 8 years ago or something when I'm reading Dolores's work, they're called backdrop people.
Do you
Mhm.
remember which of the books? Because I've read a couple of hers and I don't
Probably
remember that.
Convoluted Universe, probably, and there's 3 Convoluted Universe
And was she
volumes.
talking about it on her own, or was it coming up again and again in people hypnosis?
I don't know
Do
if
you
it came up
remember?
again and again or not.
Mm.
I can't remember. And I think that I would say it did come up because Dolores purported that she didn't, she was just doing research. Now, I look at that time when I heard her talk about backdrop people, I was like, low key, like, okay, Dolores, you might have you think that you're doing clean hypnosis, but there's a chance that you're also making suggestions, even by your assumptions, subconsciously making assumptions, and it's kind of guiding people.
Ah,
Because
yeah.
she
We
basically,
should say what she said in the book first. I don't think
yeah,
we've said
you're
that.
right. Okay. Backdrop people is what they're called. Backdrop people, and they are people that they don't even have soul. They aren't souls. They aren't from a soul. And she even said they don't have an aura. They don't have souls and they don't have an aura. So they're just there, and they're in the background of your life. They're backdrop of your life just to fill out the scene. And then the NPC thing people talk about, I haven't fully looked into what other, the current thought outside of Dolores's. NPCs are just, yeah, basically, I think some people who have the NPC narrative going, they also think they're clones or something like that, that they, undescribed, no one
Mhm,
can like say who they are.
mhm.
And so that's why, when it gets a little bit, to me, so when I read that in Dolores, I was like, okay, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I can't jibe with this. This doesn't make any sense to me.
So I just started doing, past life regression sessions a couple
Oh.
weeks ago to
Carson's a
play
hypnotherapist.
yes, to play around with it. I'd been trained in it, for a while and just I wasn't interested in it really.
Mhm.
I was interested in it obviously because I trained in it, but, like, I just wasn't
You hadn't started
using it,
using it, yeah.
as a modality, and I can see how once they're in there, you're asking questions and you're trying to figure out, like, well, what are you seeing? And, like, what does that mean to you? And so you
Mhm.
can ask questions. I can see how things I've said could be suggestive, but I've always tried to give, like,
Mhm.
alternatives, like, "Is it this? Is it this, or is it something else?" And sometimes they'll
Mhm.
be like, "No, it's none of those things,"
Yeah,
and
which
they'll
is good.
answer. Um, but I can see now because I was like, "How would she be giving suggestions?" I can see now that I've done them
Well,
how that could
and
happen.
also what Dolores may not know, and what we may, is that she may have had a bias subconsciously. And the thing is, it's happening telepathically. It's happening energetically.
Mm.
So, like she is assuming definitely this person's going to be talking about this, like just totally subconsciously. And I know I'm not saying, listen, I wasn't there.
Right.
That was how I
Mhm.
was like, why do all these, many of these other things track for me,
But
and this
nothing.
doesn't track.
Yeah,
And that's just, and I'm not saying, so I'm not trying to cast any shade on Dolores. I'm just saying that's what I kind of was like, oh, maybe that part she actually didn't realize she was biased. She was like
because
presenting
she was
some
saying
bias.
no souls,
No
just
auras.
no auras.
And so about a month ago, yeah,
Mhm.
about a month ago, for whatever I can't remember why I started thinking about that. I was like, what? Why is NPCs a thing? Why is it a thing? And then I took it to Sacred Sphere, which is our development community. And I had just talking to the community about it, and Jamie Gardner and I were talking about it, and Jamie's just like, "Yeah, I couldn't get on with that with Dolores either." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, but here's the thing. We have concepts in our lives that we think they're just a thing. Like it's just something that's in film, you know what I mean? And but we seem to be trying to remind ourselves of something. Anyway, I settled back then with Sacred Sphere. I was like, a day later, I was like, you know what I think it is? It's just that we're trying to remind ourselves that we can create thought forms and they can become quite sophisticated. Even like, it can be like everybody sees the same lady walking up and down the stairs, or your own thought forms, you know what I mean? So maybe, and like they're called like servitors in some esoteric, magical workings, and it's also like a tulpa in Sanskrit where you can create a thought form like an entity that becomes more like an entity.
Mm.
And actually, even Napoleon Hill talked about that in Think and Grow Rich, I think it was, where he's like, create a CEO boardroom and you communicate with them. And basically, you're creating thought forms to be able to energetically, spiritually work with partners, And I would say also the interface through which you interact with angels or anything that is energy, there is a thought form interface between you. There's a
Yeah.
screen of your composition. Anyway, the point is, that's where I left it. I was like, that's just all it is. That's what NPCs are. It's not a real thing. Or it's not like as pronounced as that, because here's the other reason I was like, I don't think we have the technology to create that as human beings, to create these beings. Like, who's overseeing it? Who can possibly oversee that program when
Oh, I
one
didn't
hand
even
doesn't
think
know
of
what the
that.
other hand is doing in the government or anything like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems impossible. Well, with this 1 billion, it might not, it could, my theory is, what if 1 billion or some of those 1 billion are uh, non-human intelligences who are walking around the planet and putting up a projection field like humans? And that they, I call it glamoring, like, from vampire lore, like they're projecting the appearance, and that maybe they are non-playable in the sense that they aren't really going home into a home. They're just walking around near us. Maybe they go buy a coffee. They're collecting data.
I was gonna say,
They,
are they data collecting?
yeah, they're collecting
Mm.
data. They're seeing what it's like to be here. They're surveilling, you know what I mean?
Which we have heard about that
Yeah,
existing and happening.
exactly. Yeah. And so that was my NP, and they don't have a human soul and they don't have a human aura.
So here's the question that someone
Yeah.
asked in, was it Sacred Sphere? Modern Mystic, Sacred Sphere.
Sacred sphere, yeah. What's the difference between a human
What's
soul?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I thought souls could go and be a this, or they could go be in this, and they'd have a lifetime as this.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah, talk to us
Well
about.
well, just think, I mean, it's really quite simple if you think about it. So the architecture of of creation, there's an ultimate source, prime creator, God, if you like that. But that point of creation is like all, it's everything, therefore it's basically nothing, you know what I mean? So it then has to have a thought or a tone. It, in order for there to be a vibration, there are at least two components, right? It's boom boom, in order for something to go boom 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 boom. So God or source being the first bum and the second bum, or whatever, the fractalization of the one light, in order for it to be light at all. Light is awareness of, has to be, you know. So then we might call that first vibratory component, the the realm of angels, light beings, that's what we tend to call it, like angels or archangels, just in this, language or whatever. And then from that, angels are vibrating, collaborating with the source and creating things like oversouls. And then from the soul is created a soul. And then from the soul is created a higher self, which is the basically, well, what I just discovered recently by doing some past life viewing regression into Lemuria and Atlantis. The higher self is basically what we would call the veil, but collectively it's, the veil is not really a veil. It is the transduction field uh, that brings us onto the planet. So then if we're looking at that as a tree, the trunk is source, the big branches are angels, the smaller branches or medium branches are oversoul, the next branches are soul, tiny branches or leaves or blossoms or whatever are higher self, and then the fruit, right?
Our
Yeah.
incarnations.
So that's just what it is. In order for it to come onto this planet, at the level of soul, it's going to be a different composition in order to be able to become a human species on this planet. You see what I mean? But at the oversoul level, the dispatch of the oversoul to soul, sure, we might be co-occupying,
Okay.
like, you know what I
And
mean?
because
Like,
everything is existing all at once, our oversoul just has
yeah,
multiple souls
yeah, dispatching
around.
multiple souls. And
And then when
so
we're connecting to past lives, especially if they're not human or parallel lives, that could
they're
be
probably from the same oversoul.
oversoul, not
That's
okay.
my thought or theory or experience of it. But
Interesting.
I always just say, like, who knows? Again, I didn't believe in backdrop people 8 years ago. So,
Okay.
but that's my sense of it, and my experience of it is that my oversoul is the architect of my oversoul is Archangel Ariel, and Ariel is the oversoul that I am dispatched from. Also has dispatched Lyrans and Pleiadians,
Mhm.
you know, and so and then also like Lemurians and Atlanteans. That's my sense of it. So yeah, but that's the oversoul. But the soul, by the time we get there, it is already starting to know that it's going to be human. And so
Right.
it's going to be a different variety. It's going to be a peach versus an apple. You know what I mean? And that's how, if we go, well, they don't have souls or auras. Well, they don't, because now here's the other thing too. Now, Brian's NPC kind of theory was, I'm saying, like, they're fully realized beings. They're just ETs,
Mhm.
or NHIs, and they're intelligent and they're collecting data. And maybe they're even, like, for example, maybe they are, higher up in their species. Because, like, for example, with grays, there are the short grays who are considered to be droids, and then the tall grays are like the managers, like they're really fully developed beings. So Brian said, what if they're droids, glamoring, projecting a field? And so that's why also they're
Would ET have been a droid then? Shorter?
I think so, because
Mm.
he's short. But that also could have been, I don't know. I haven't looked into the original story of that, so I
No.
will, because people are, they're like, yeah, it's this family that kept, and we're talking about E.T. the film now.
Movie.
Back to Spielberg. I don't know. I have to look that up. I've just heard it's based on a true story of a family that harbored an extraterrestrial that they found in their
Okay.
barn. So, maybe it is, and that's why he's simple, is because he's actually a droid, and he's not I don't
Good
know.
track. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Brian's theory, is that maybe they're droids. They're not, they're kind of like AI, and have the projection field around them that appear to be human, and they're not fully interacting with humans. So they aren't, it's the kind of thing, like, don't assume that someone that is meaningful in your life is NPC. Right? I mean, maybe you want your mother-in-law, not your mother-in-law, but your mother-in-law to be an NPC, because you're like, that must be it. She doesn't have a soul. But that's not the theory, at least. Anyway, so I think that's the main theory. Let me see. Did I have another theory? Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So just
Yeah.
basically, like, or maybe it's all of it. You know what I mean? Like, the NPC population could be both conscious ETs glamoring the planet, or it could be droid-like entities glamoring in order to be a part of the planet and collect data. Maybe it's also the hybrids. I mean, maybe it's all of it, right? Just like Hal
Yeah.
Puthoff's paper.
But
Maybe it's
then
all
that
of it.
would track with what Dolores is saying because
Yeah.
technically there isn't that human soul, there isn't that human aura.
Yeah. And then my resistance to it also would track, because I'm like, humans can't do that.
Mhm.
We don't have the capacity, the technological capacity. We don't have the organizational skills to do it. But, you know, extraterrestrials or non-human intelligences who are here are technologically more advanced than we are. So it tracks, at least to
Um,
me.
do you believe in clones?
I Well, I mean, we can do it, because
That's the first thing
Barbara
that just popped into my head, like, people that have just been taken out and are
but
clones walking
yeah, I
around
mean,
that
we
don't have
can do
souls.
it. We do have that technology. I mean, Barbara Streisand has cloned several generations of her dogs. As to
What? I did not know
yes,
that.
and we wanna Brian's like he Brian wants to we collected, Barnabas's my cat who passed in 2024. We're planning we want Brian wants to clone Phronsie, was our cat who's still living, and he wants to do, like, it a year apart, so we have stair-step Phronsies. So cloning is a thing. I mean, yeah, they famously cloned a sheep. Are they cloning human beings? Here's the thing. No matter what, cloning, it's just it's basically a twin.
And that
A biological twin. There's a
a
different
soul would
soul
still
that
come into
exactly,
them.
yeah, yeah,
So then
exactly.
mm.
Now, I don't really cotton to Jim Carrey as a clone. I mean, I don't. I
I
think
didn't know
that
that was a theory. What?
because
No, Jim Carrey's too
well,
spiritual.
no, because he just had. You didn't hear about that controversy that came out.
No, I don't
S-
go on the internet.
Oh, good for you. There was he got an award. He got some kind of lifetime achievement award, and hasn't been out in public in a long time. Like he doesn't like Hollywood, and
Yeah.
he would the fact that he even went to receive an award was like, wow, that's shocking. But he
Uh,
looked different.
oh.
And so people are the first thing they were saying is that he had extreme plastic surgery. And that was my first disappointment. I was like you, no, he's way too spiritual.
Yeah.
Why would he do that? And also he's basically a recluse. Why would he care if he
Yeah, yeah,
and his face has been everything. Like you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Oh, yeah, that's how his comedy.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I am on that, but I think that I think it was probably him because also the speech that he gave it in French, and it basically is saying like, "I'm a man who's wearing a mask," or something. I think he is pranking us. I think he had on a little bit of like a
Prosthetic?
cosmetic prosthetic, yeah, and I think he put contacts in because he wanted to fuck with us because I just think that's who he is, and I love that for him and us because it's so who he is. He
Yeah, that
basically
is
did
so who he is.
he did a real Andy Kaufman. Makes so much sense because did you ever see
No.
Man on the Moon? You should watch it. It's so great.
No.
So he in Man on the Moon, didn't you believe they put a man on the moon? I was making sure I said it's based from the REM song. Man on the Moon, he plays Andy Kaufman. And Andy Kaufman uh, played a character, but he played it like he committed to it, where he was doing it in real life. And he was like,
Oh.
and so then Jim, played Andy, and he stayed in character the whole time, and they were basically saying it was really and there's another film, a documentary based on that called Jim and Andy, and it's like his close friends saying, like, it was really creepy because he was Andy while the film was being made.
Yeah. Okay,
So
that's your
anyway,
theory on
do you
that.
see how him wearing a mask and pretending like he's a pretend version of himself is so him?
Go
I
him.
love it. I love that he was
Okay.
screw with us that way. So, anyway, yeah.
Well,
That's the deal. Oh my gosh, we gotta let you go to bed, right?
yeah, but that's 9/11, my birthday.
Oh!
Um, yeah, I feel like we got in the good stuff.
Yeah, I think we did. Now what we did talk a teeny bit about was, we talked a little bit about the different species of ETs, but I think we need to talk about that more coming
Yeah.
up sometime soon.
Yeah,
Um, we also
because
can talk about yeah.
it's beyond because what does Bashar always say? Like after hybrids, it's like Pleiadians and certain ones that are again more connected
Mhm.
to the human cause, story,
Yeah,
etc.
Bashar says that Pleiadians are gonna in addition obviously the hybrids revealing themselves and but he says Pleiadians. And honestly, I wonder if the Nordics are Pleiadians. Am I
That yes,
yeah.
yeah,
And but I don't know. I haven't researched that to see what other people's theories are on that. But yeah, but there's also obviously there's the grays, talls and shorts, who are from Zeta Reticuli. There's the mantis beings.
hmm
You know, I love them. They're so awesome. And then there's also reptilians, which people are really afraid of because they have, they just, it's not that they're bad. I don't, that's the thing. They're a bit demonized. And I'm like, they probably feel the same way about us because look what the humans get up to. You know what I mean? Like,
I
so
mean,
far as being bad.
can't blame them.
But I think that what it really is that reptilians, they're just as varied as we are. but they have their makeup is so different that they're more of a cold-blooded species, and it's like when you come upon a snake, you get scared. You know
Mm.
what I mean? It activates your fear response. It like activates your spleen, but they aren't really that, they aren't an evil kind of race overall.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, we could talk more about them later,
I
some other time.
think that would be a really great episode. Do you remember when I moved into this house and all that there was just on the counter, just sat straight up a mantis waiting for
I
us?
love them.
Do you
Yeah,
remember I
was it a
sent you a
green one?
picture?
Was it a green one or was he pink? Or she pink?
I can't remember.
She
I
was
have it.
probably green.
The body's still here. Kept it because it was just like so weird in the middle
Oh,
of
I
the
do
kitchen
remember now.
counter.
It was
Nothing was
green.
around.
Yeah. I love them.
On
And
school.
so after they mate and eat their mate's head, they turn this beautiful salmon pink color.
Wow.
For a while. I think they go back to green eventually, but they're like, my tummy is full. Look how pink I am. I have a picture of one, or you can look it up. So, okay, what else? Is there anything else to cover? Oh, yeah, there is something to cover. And that is that we have multidimensional mediumship coming up.
It's
Enrollment.
speaking to these beings before that they show up
Yes.
in front of you.
Right. Multidimensional mediumship does cover past loved ones, so discarnate humans, former humans, your ancestors, your past loved ones. We have one that's on angels. We have one that's on nature spirits, fairies, elementals, and we have a module on communicating with interdimensionals. And I'm going to be adding a lot more to that one, especially, but to all of them. Enrollment is open, and so I'll just leave it to you guys to look at it. It's for everyone. It's for everyone who wants to prepare for contact. It's for everyone who wants to have a stronger, deeper, more powerful relationship with their guides wherever you are in your development of that. There's bonuses if you enroll before August 1st. Low-key going to actually be adding some content and probably record it live even before we get started.
Cool.
Just to make sure that we're there. So anyway, there's that. And there's also still Psi skills. We have 2 workshops of Psi skills coming up. The one that's coming up, if you happen to be catching this before July 5th, that one is on remote viewing.
Okay, so bring back our Substack audience if anyone
Oh, yeah.
saw my recent note where
yeah.
I was she bought me this Tricia bought me this spell book for it's folk magic for children, and I've been doing spells every night with Sterling, and tomorrow we're going to write our own. And it's amazing, but I couldn't find it for forever, and I was just like,
For like 2 weeks or more, right?
2 weeks. I had it for like 2 days after I opened it, and then I couldn't find it. And I kept asking, people were like, no, I haven't seen it anywhere. And I was like, I'm just gonna ask Tricia and be like, any psychic hits? What do you get? She responded right away, and you remote viewed, right?
I did, yeah. So she was like, do you have any? I can't find that spell book. It's a spell book for children, right? It's like, yeah. And so I bought this for Carson now probably a month ago, sent it to her because we live in different states. And yeah, and so she was like, yeah, I can't find it, and I really want to do the bedtime spell to be able to get them to stay in bed. And do you have any hits on where it might be? And yeah, we were both like, that's the cool thing about it, is that Carson was totally relaxed about asking and receiving it, and I was totally relaxed. I was literally like carrying my phone around doing a voice note while I was like looking through my closet to try to figure out what I wanted to wear. But I did say remote view Carson's house to myself. And so then I voice messaged and I said, oh, it slipped behind. It slipped behind something like a couch or a cushion against the wall. And she was real time texting as she listened to it. She goes, slip behind. I can work with that.
I didn't
and
even,
when
I
you
don't think
say,
I even listened to the rest. I was like,
yeah,
I know where it is.
And she started walking right toward it, which was so cool.
Yeah,
and then
I
you
saw the image drop in the second you said it, because I became receptive and I received. I talked about it in the note like we were playing catch.
Yeah.
But then I re-listened to it. I was like, oh my gosh, she was spot on. It was behind the couch against
a wall. Yeah, it was so wild. And yeah, but it's not. But that's the thing. That's what we can do. And so yeah, I did remote view, and I've remote viewed her house before. Not this house, a whole different house that I hadn't been to before. Before I'd gone to her house, I remote viewed that one. And yeah, I've never been to this house. And I just said remote view Carson's house, and there it was. I just saw it slipped behind. And it was really fun. And that's the thing, is that it isn't about me being, so psychic. I mean, it is. It's also about Carson being so psychic and receptive. It's both. It's both and, you know what I mean? And it's just what we can do.
It was
It's
so much more efficient. It took 5 seconds.
I know,
I,
right?
I sent it to her. She sent it back, and I was like, I know where it is.
He's
Let
been
me
like
there.
missing for 2 weeks.
And the second I decided to bring in intuition into
Yeah.
it without trying, because
Yep.
again, I think it would have been harder on my own because I would have been like,
And that's what we'll talk about with the Sci Skills class too. So
yes.
the workshop is the next one is this weekend, but there's four all or five all together. And we're doing, I think there's four. There's three is this coming week, and then there's five is in August, but you can get, the past ones as well. The thing is, it's not about people. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's like, if you, like Carson, you're taking some choir and some voice lessons right now. Do you assume that you shouldn't do that because you don't sound like Adele already? You know what I mean?
No.
You're just gonna do it. You're gonna do it, right? It's the same thing. So yeah, some people, or are you gonna not take guitar lessons because you're not a prodigy like Prince was with the
Yeah.
guitar? You know what I mean? Yeah, there are some people who have a certain kind of predisposition, but it's anyone can learn guitar, anyone can sing. It's both and why would you hold yourself back by comparing? And also, you don't know until you actually allow yourself to. Your capacity to subconsciously allow yourself to consider it, believe it, be curious about it is what opens it up for you. And that's it. So,
I love that. Even I needed to hear that. And my deal
we all
with
need to.
like how at the beginning I was like, you were like, you're a channel. And I was like, no.
I was like, you're an actor. So, yeah.
Because I would never think that, like, I can't take a guitar lesson because I'm not already a natural guitar player. I would never
Right.
think that, but I do
I know.
think that about certain psychic things. So
I
I
know.
think that's
And
helpful for everybody to hear.
that's the thing. It's a skill and it's a talent and it's an art. And but we have projected so much, specialness on it. And part of that is because for hundreds of years, it has been by some certain cultures, I would say, in spiritual or magical communities, it's like they're gatekeeping. Like, I am able to do this, and you need to pay me money for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like create a separation that has been happening. It still happens, but it's also been going on for hundreds of years. Literally, like tarot was considered scary and dark because there were people who could read tarot who acted like if you read it, it will be dangerous for you. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like 100 years ago. And but anyway, the point is that it is our natural innate abilities, in the same way that there are ETs walking the planet, but and they're just trying to like go, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? We want to scare you too much. So anyway, that's the jam. And we're going to let Carson go to bed. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. It was super fun.
It's been like 8 months or something, a really long time. So it's fun.
I know.
Fun to be back at it.
I mean, I was actually dealing with some health challenges, which could also be called my Chiron return. The second I got out of Chiron return, I was healthy.
Fine. That's so funny.
4 last 4 months of my Chiron return. Like, let's just make her body screw up. Anyway. All right. No, for realsies, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for coming to listen, to be here. Thank you for shining your light on our beautiful world. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.